My name's Hermann Isaac. I'm a printmaker and arrived in Perth, Western Australia in 1981. I learned my art when I was 13, I think, because my auntie gave me my first box of oil paints and a canvas. And a little bit later, I was in a high school where they did a contest, and our team won, and we won some money, and that was very motivational for my art career, to have this success very early. But then I learned etching in high school, and I never looked back, and I still do it now. In 1981, when I came to Australia, to Perth, I worked for about 10 years. Then there was the financial crisis, and I managed to get into Claremont School of Art, where I learned to draw. We all learned to draw there. And I also did a printmaking major and a painting minor. 2 years later, after I finished Claremont, I thought I hadn't studied enough and I didn't know anything about concept. Everyone was talking about Curtin Uni. And so I went to Curtin Uni. But it was a little bit of a disappointment because we didn't learn any techniques we learned some. Everybody was encouraged to make something totally new. But I think you can't make anything totally new. Everything comes from somewhere. And so I did finish my course there, my bachelor, but the first year afterwards I didn't know what to do. I was confused in my mind about the traditional and the conceptual. But then I decided I'd just do what I wasn't supposed to do. And there was paint flowers, pets, and nice things. But I gave it a surreal slant to make it more interesting. If I can share something at this point, then it's that drawing is really important. You need drawing for everything, all techniques really. If you do sculpture, if you do printmaking, if you do painting, drawing is essential. So I can only encourage young people to practice that and go to a portrait drawing group or draw in your own time. I was fortunate enough to go to Germany quite often to visit my family, and I took the opportunity to go to galleries in Frankfurt and in Cologne. And what struck me the most was when you see the art in original, it can be eye-opening in terms of how imperfect they are sometimes, or how overwhelming, skillful they are, which you can't really pick up when you only see a photo of it. If I don't do any commission work, and I do something just for myself, I usually want to convey a message. In the past, I have also employed irony or humor. My focus is now more on the present moment, to enjoy the present moment. The recent drama happened in the world. It started when COVID came, then Ukraine was attacked, then Gaza happened, and not much of it is resolved by now, and we have also the global warming to contend with. I want to show that nothing is permanent, and I might only do a decaying tree, but I will put all my message in this tree and try to understand this tree, how it's decaying and how it's feeding other animals and how life carries on. I'm more into spreading this message now of impermanence and how you have to value the present moment, because it will change again. And now I'm making works like the moon that you see here, where there's a lot of chance involved. It's basically, the technique is basically a combination of two prints. And both prints are made in a way where chance is the biggest contributor. I don't actually know what it's going to look like when it's done. Not everyone works. Just have fun and see what happens by adding different elements. In this case it's turps and paint and ink. Mainly it's the black and white that makes all the little textures that you can afterwards enjoy. The work Snakehead is a good example for what I do now. And it's called Snakehead because after I made it, it looked like a snake's head. But actually, it was ink on a glass and then turps added to it, but very minimal. And some drops appeared that I didn't put in. They look like bubbles, but I didn't put them in. And that's what I like about it, that it makes its own texture. And when you lift it up off the glass, the paper, then you get these lines. And depending how fast you lift it up, the lines are shorter or longer. But you also can't say where they go. And that's what I really like about this technique. This one is called The Opportunist, and it shows my dog, that's now passed away, in a guitar case. It was one day in the studio, playing some guitar, and the case was open on the floor, and the dog goes in. And he fitted perfectly. But he looked at me as if he said, you know, can I stay here? I thought, oh, I'll have to make an etching of that. And then I added the background. I added the instruments and put a pattern in the foreground. And this is representative of many works that I did. When something looked a bit funny, I did it. I added the color with ink. It's water-based. It's got a lot of pigment in it. And it's actually, to my mind, better than watercolor. Because the watercolor will cover the black lines after a while, whereas the ink doesn't cover the lines, doesn't cover anything. And the more you put it on, the more saturated it gets, without covering any black lines. Here we have one that shows the national emblem in wheelchairs. You see a kangaroo and an emu. On the top you see camels and elephants, alternatively all going to the right, but one goes to the left. This is about Australia trying to deal with immigration. The animals on the top come from Africa, and one of them has to go back. The etching itself, the two main characters, the kangaroo and the emu, they were done in sugar lift technique. And I mixed up some sugar with ink and a bit of dishwashing detergent. You've got to add lots of ink so you can see what you're doing. And then I painted them as silhouettes onto the plate. Then I covered all the plate with bitumen to block it out. And when you wash it under hot water, what you painted with the sugar lift will lift off. Then you spray it to get dots in it, and then it gets etched in different times, and you have to cover it up at different times. That sounds a bit complicated, and it is. But there are stages, and sometimes you see you want to change something, and you can do that. And even though I have the formula, there's always an added factor, which is nature. Your materials, they respond to the climate. And when it's too cold, the acid doesn't want to move, doesn't want to etch. It's just cold and it's freezing. So you have to put a heat lamp on it to warm it up, and it works perfectly then. And in summer you got the problem that it's too hot, and even though you put a lid on it, on your acid, it might evaporate a little bit, and then it becomes very little and very strong. I'm very interested in etching and sugar lift because they have a long process. And you don't get the result very quickly. I also like the fact that when you do etching and sugar lift, you're using chemical processes that provide you with little miracles. For example, when you do a sugar lift and then you wash it off, put it under the hot water and it washes off. Not all of it comes off sometimes, because the sugar has made little circles in it. It looks like a texture or a pattern, but you didn't do it, it just happened. And that's what I like about etching, that there's so much variety in it. Also when you ink a plate up, and you can over-wipe it, but you can also under-wipe it. Then it gets much darker and it looks like an expressionist point from just after the war, you know. And when you do it nice and clean, then it can look really calm and relaxing and clear. Yeah, aquatint was originally produced with resin. You know, rosin. There was this rosin powder and you put it in a box, and there is a blow air device, I don't know what it's called. And then you activate it with the air and all the resin goes up in the box. Then you open the flap and put your plate in, close it, and after a few minutes take it out again and it's covered with rosin. This rosin has to be melted on with a heat gun or on a hot plate, and you have to take it off when you realize it's melted. Otherwise it melts too much and you can't use it like that. So I'm using actually spray paint, oil-based spray paint, because oil-based won't dilute in the water, and acid is made with water. So you use oil paint and you give it only a small spray. You don't want to cover the whole plate, you want to cover it about 50%. The fish plate is a print that shows the aquatint really well. You can see on the leaves in the pattern how there's a light edge to everything, and that's painted before it was etched. It had to be covered so it wouldn't be etched. You can see the steps in here. There's 3 steps in there, so you have white, 1 minute and 2 minutes, and on the edge you probably got 4 minutes. In the face there's also black, and that would have been 5 minutes. Before I do an etching, I do a drawing, and the drawing is roughly this big. And when I'm happy with the drawing, I take a photo of it and I reduce it to the size of the plate I want to do it on. And then I reverse it as well. Because when you print something, it comes out the other way. You notice that especially with text, when you have text in it. But you notice it also with composition. The drawing is most important. And on the drawing you can see, when you made your shade, how dark you want to etch it, you know? Like if you got the drawing, then you got a reference that helps you work it out. And I also make a print the other way, the right way, so I can see when it's printed how well they compare to the drawing. And if I have to do something else. Starting off with my high school teacher. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name. But I'm so grateful to him for teaching me etching. And he also made sure that we would use this medium to convey a message. That was always, like, that's where I got the idea from, really. Then I had very good teachers at Claremont School of Art. There was Richard Marito. He was a fantastic draftsperson and a fantastic wood carver. There was Manu, a lady that taught us contour drawing, and she said, you can sit in front of the television, and when the news are on or something like that, the person doesn't move much, so you can draw them while you watch telly. Contour drawing is a very good technique, so I will always remember that too, because I'm still using it today. And then there was Ben Joel. He was a good painting lecturer for me at Curtin University. And Harry Hummerston was a good printmaking teacher. Eric Chan from Claremont was a very good printmaking teacher. So I'm happy about my Australian teachers, West Australian teachers. I looked at René Magritte first, in terms of painting, and I looked at K. de Kolwitz in terms of printmaking. Also Dürer and Rembrandt for printmaking. And from Dürer I also heard that he and his wife traveled from Nuremberg, which is in the south of Germany, all the way up to Norway, selling his prints. And they weren't as expensive as paintings, so everybody could buy them. And I always liked the idea that prints are actually available to everybody. And we should kind of keep it that way and not make it ultra expensive, because once it's done, you can print it again. And also people's money changes. At the moment we live in a time where you can't buy luxury goods that much. So we probably have to adapt a little bit here and not trying to get more and more money, but make it affordable for some. I think it's good if you like some artists to copy their work. And you can make it your own. K. de Kolwitz, I put a different background in it. She didn't have a background. But I stuck to her figure. And that way I found out how she uses the woodcut, how she uses the dark, the black that you get from the woodcut. She makes her hands really big, and they talk to you like a face. It just comes into my mind. That's Gerhard Richter. He's one of my great masters in a way that I look up to. He's done completely abstract and completely realistic, and everything in between. He's very important for painting, to show that painting is still relevant. Like he did this squeegee work. He made a new sculpture which is actually just a glass frame, a glass in a frame, like 3 glass in a frame. And when you look through that glass, because it's a frame, it's also like a temporary painting. He did some work on the Baader-Meinhof group, and he did some work on 9/11. And the Baader-Meinhof group was all these black and white paintings of photos, blurred, because that's what they were like. And the 9/11 was an image that he did 4 years after it. And they asked him, why did you do it 4 years afterwards? And he said, I had to think about it first. And I can totally relate to that. How can you respond straight away, you know? And the painting that he did was abstract. He couldn't see a building or a plane, but the colors, all grays, and the shapes, it couldn't be anything else. It was so well done, like as a memorial to this disaster. Yeah, it was in one of the art magazines. That's where I saw it. I mean, that's another thing about me, that I had them for 15 years coming here and always showing what was in the galleries in Europe and in the US. There's so much inspiration. There's something that I learned from an art teacher who was an artist, and something that's worth handing on. And that was that if you want to be a good artist, then you shouldn't just go to art galleries. You should go to the footy, in the pub, to the river, to the dome, to all sorts of things, and do all sorts of things, because they will all inspire you. And that's so true. And I get inspired from my own place. For example, I got these pink galahs living here, and I've made already a number of images that have them in it, paintings and prints. But I get also inspired by other things around here. So you don't have to go far to find inspiration. You can look at your own place and what's happening around your place. Yeah, I'm not trying to produce really valuable works, as in money-wise, like use frames from office works. And I was asked or told that I would be heaps more successful if I put an expensive frame on it. But I don't want to do that. I just want to be a degrowth person, in a way, where you use what's already there. I want to share my knowledge with others, because when I was teaching as a tutor in Applecross, I noticed that there was this attitude that everything's on the phone. That was troubling to me, because I'm not a great disciplinarian, and I didn't say, "Can you put that phone away?" I just concentrated on the people that wanted to work. I didn't so much enjoy this work in public school. I rather taught in my own workshops, because I've got my studio here and I can accommodate up to 4 people, and off and on I've been doing that, but mainly with one person, and we supported each other in printmaking, had exhibitions together, because it's also good to do an exhibition with another person. Then you can share everything. If you do a group exhibition, there's more people to share. So I did lots of group exhibitions and quite a few exhibitions with one other person, and only one solo exhibition. And the solo exhibition turned out very successful. It was in a place called Mutima Gallery, which doesn't exist anymore, and it's near the Roundhouse. It was near the Roundhouse. But it was successful in terms of people loved it, people bought. In recent times I always exhibited at Early Work Gallery here in Fremantle, and they're very supportive, and lots of supportive people go there. And then I'm in the Printmakers Association and take part in their annual exhibition. It's interesting to me to see people react to my work, and sometimes I wonder if they see it the same way as I do. But I've noticed in my years of experience that that doesn't always happen. People reinterpret what you thought was pretty clear, but sometimes it's not, and people see it another way. But it makes you think, how can I express myself better, or my idea better? Makes you think. And sometimes a work that I spent a long time on, it doesn't even get looked at. Other times, like the one with the dog, it gets bought lots of times. So you can also never predict, and in a way that's also interesting to me, to see how people react when I've shown them something, what the reaction is.